I'm gonna make an entire video about why I like poker so much as a career, but one of the reasons is because it's very difficult to get cheated or to not get, you know, your value. Like, if you're the best player in the room, you're gonna get paid an amount that makes sense for being the best player in the room. It's also very difficult to just get cheated on your pay. When I worked at the YMCA, they said my raise from one year to the next would be 50 cents an hour, and then they only gave me 25. At 3 of the 4 UPS locations I worked, I got paid less than they said I would. When I worked full-time in IT, I got paid, I was shorted about $15,000 in 6 months. So I'm not talking about all-in EV, you know, if you have aces versus kings all in pre, you're supposed to win 4 out of 5. I'm not talking about a very long stretch where you only win like 3 out of 5 because the runouts are just going the way of the other guy. I'm talking about human employees doing something that messes with how much money you're supposed to be taking away. I've played over 10,000 hours now. Something like that has only happened to me twice. Once, it wasn't really a big deal. You know, the mistake that was made, it ended up resulting in something kind of detrimental to me. Last year at Bally's, there were a few hours promos, but one specifically, it was something like between 8 a.m. and noon. There was some time period, and like the top 10 hours earners for that time period for the week got paid on the final day, something like that. There were a bunch of weeks I made it. There was one week where I was the bubble spot, and I missed it by like 5 minutes. And I know for a fact the guy who was last place had time where he was clocked in, but away from the table, like in the bathroom or smoking, at least 5 minutes worth. I wasn't. I might have had like a minute extra. Like one time I went to the bathroom and came back. I wasn't leaving the table to eat or get drinks or smoke or anything like that. He got way more time than I did away from the table, and that resulted in him getting paid and me not getting paid. That wasn't a huge deal. It wasn't a huge amount of money, and I mean, dealers, I don't expect them to like instantly clock people out and instantly clock people back in either. But there was a time where this was the worst ruling I've ever seen, and of course it went against me. It wasn't just me at the table seeing a terrible ruling. It involved me, and of course I was supposed to get the money, and of course I didn't. So I was at Aria. This was pretty soon after I moved here in 2015. I remember the NBA playoffs were going on. It must have been May or June 2015. So there was a 3-way all-in. There was this guy who is a massive, massive piece of trash. I still see him at Aria. There was me, and there was this older guy. It was a 3-way all-in. The older guy had the least amount of money, so he's all in for the main pot in the middle. Me and the other guy are all in for a side pot. So when the final card runs out, what the dealer should say, he should point at me and the piece of trash and say, "Show me a winner for the side pot." He didn't do that. I don't know if he was going to, but the older guy was very quick to turn his cards over. He was just very eager because he knew he won because he had a full house. So he turns his cards over, and he is better than me and the piece of trash. Well, the piece of garbage doesn't realize, you know, he's not thinking about the side pot. So he sees he can't beat the older guy's hand, and I could tell he's about to fold his cards. I show my cards because I know me and him are still eligible for the side pot. So I show my cards. I only had a pair. He, the piece of trash, keeps one card face down on the table the entire time, takes the other, flashes it. He shows the table what it is, and then puts it face down again. It was never tabled. It's also only one of the 2 cards he had, and then throws both into the muck, and the dealer scoops them into the muck unretrievable. He never tabled his hand. He only flashed one of 2 cards. That is nowhere near a live hand. So the dealer goes to push me the side pot, and that's when the piece of garbage realizes he won the side pot. He had better than I had with that 1 card, but he never tabled it. So the money's coming to me. The piece of trash stops the dealer. He doesn't think he's going to win a ruling, but he says call the floor over just in case. of course, the kiss of death for me. So the floor comes over, and this wasn't happening a ton back in 2015. This is happening a lot more now. A floor comes over and doesn't make a ruling, goes to someone else because they have no idea what to do. So this guy at Aria, who still works at Aria, by the way, he hears what happened. I mean, it's very clear. For the side pot, I showed, he mucked, I win. That's the end of it. He says he can't make a ruling, he doesn't know. He goes back, like near the cage, back where, you know, the employees like clock in, behind the curtain. No idea who he's talking to. I guess the shift supervisor. He leaves for a while. There was a friend of mine, a guy I knew from poker, at a nearby table who understood like something weird was happening. And I told him, of course, there's no way this works out for me. The floor comes back. He says his boss told him if the card that was flashed is good enough to win, regardless of the second card, even though the hand was never tabled and is now in the muck unretrievable, he wins. That is not the ruling anywhere in the world. They just made that up. One aside, I will add, if this were like a new player, I might have just given him the side pot. You know, forget technically, but in essence, that guy beat me. I know his cards beat my cards. If it were a very new player to poker who didn't know every single rule and forgot about the side pot, maybe didn't even know what a main pot and a side pot were, I might have given it to him and then just explained the ruling and explained how he should protect his hand in the future. But this guy, at the time and still currently, every interaction I experience with him in Aria to this day, he is a massive, massive, massive piece of garbage. So I wasn't giving him any money like this. But of course, Aria makes the worst ruling of all time, and he got the pot. The side pot, I feel like the side pot was about a buy-in. I think me and him had about 150 each above what the older gentleman had. So that was about $300 going the other way. I was really mad at the time. I actually asked the floor, show me, because sometimes in the fine print, like on like a sign on the wall, it'll say like, ask to see like rule book or ask to see house rules or something. I asked that floor, show me in the rule book where a mucked hand can win the pot, because there's no chance it says that. He went over to the cage, said, oh, I don't know where the rule book is, but it says it. No chance. I actually was gonna not play at Aria for a while, and then like a few days later realized that was pretty stupid. It shouldn't happen, but I mean, I forget how many hours I had at the time, probably just about 1,000. So 9,000 hours later, nothing else like that has happened. And it was only $300. I mean, I said in IT I got cheated for like 15,000. At UPS I got cheated for well more than $300. So it's not a big deal. Things aren't going to be perfect, but compared to other jobs I've had, the 300 and I think it was about 150 for that Bally's thing where the other guy got a few extra minutes he didn't really earn. $450 over 10,000 hours is not that big of a deal. So it should have been avoided, but the fact that it happened isn't catastrophic to me.